Hello and welcome, my friends. This is Jennifer from Mystic Star. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on day 3 of my Tarot 101 series. So we've gone through the difference between tarot and oracle. We've kind of debunked some of the myths surrounding tarot. And you have your first deck. What do? Well, first of all, of course, you're going to want to unpackage that deck, that beautiful deck you bought. Now, if you followed my recommendations, you have some sort of derivative of the original Rider-Waite deck. Like I said before, and I will continue to say, it is easier to learn from the original and then use your skills that you've honed on these beautiful decks. This, of course, will not be your only deck you have. Many of us have multiple decks, and some of us are even creating decks. So you will have more in the future. And as more come out, well, it's kind of like that crazy shoe collection some women have. I don't have a lot of shoes. However, I have a lot of decks. That passion, that interest, that's where your money and your time is going to be spent. So don't be surprised if you don't start to acquire a number of decks. And you're going to find people start to gift you decks. Even though you may not have been interested in that deck, they start to gift it to you. Oh, you read tarot? You read oracle? I tried that once, and you can have this deck because I don't like it anymore. Or it never fit with me. So, like I said, this deck that we're learning from, if you will, your training wheels for tarot, isn't going to be the deck that you primarily use. How often do you see me use my original Rider-Waite or the Radiant Rider-Waite in my readings? I like to use the pretty decks, the ones that connect in, or the ones that are going to be meaningful for that reading. So you have this deck. What do you do with it? Well, of course, like I said, you're going to take it out of the little cardboard box it comes in. Most of the Rider-Waites come in that flimsy cardboard flip-up box that isn't going to sustain you throughout your journey. Take it out. You're going to have to plastic wrap the deck itself. And there's a little booklet inside. You can recycle the plastic wrap and that little booklet. You don't need it. You're not going to find the answers you're looking for in that little book. The answers, they're going to come in as we go through and work with the cards. Like I said in my first, I think it was my first video, in the original deck, Arthur-Waite didn't have a clear picture and description of all the cards. He had made some major mistakes. He didn't follow Pamela Colman Smith's artwork. So even from the beginning, that little booklet was off. And I'm also going to ask you to stay off of Google. We don't need to know what Google or what other people think this card means. We need to know what it means for you. As you work with these cards, meanings, symbols, they're going to start to come forward. So I will give you tips on how to read. Most importantly, we need to get rid of that little book. It's not going to serve you. It's not going to help you in this process. And it is a process, my friends. I know there's a lot of learn tarot quick. Guys, this is a skill. We need to take that time. We don't want to rush. We don't want to push ourselves with this. What we want to do is connect in and have some fun. And when we do that, it's going to take some time. However, you're going to appreciate this time. You're going to connect into these cards a lot more deeply than if we rushed. So, we've got the cards free from their cage. What do you do now? I like to call it the 3 C's. The 3 C's, of course, we're looking at cleansing, clearing, and charging. So, cleansing and clearing can be done at the same time. Cleansing, you're getting rid of those unwanted energies from your deck. clearing, you're ensuring that any personal imprint or connection is gone from other people. As people touch cards or work with or print the card, they start to imprint their own connection to those cards. So we want to clear it and cleanse the deck so that it's your deck. We want to connect it in with you, not with everybody else that has had connection with it through production to delivery. How do you do that? Well, it's actually really easy. If you know Reiki, I would say Reiki your deck. It's super simple. It takes minutes. If you're not a Reiki master or not learning Reiki, which as a side note, I really encourage people to at least have level 1 and 2 in Reiki so that they can, Reiki their deck. They can Reiki their food and water and themselves to help with that healing process and help clear out some unwanted energies. Now, if you're not a Reiki master or learning Reiki, another easy way that you can clear and cleanse your deck is through sage or incense. It's a relatively easy process. You take the cards in one hand and pass the card over the smoke in another, kind of flipping it around and clearing it. It can take some time, right? But it's worth it. You need to clear out the deck, especially on the first go. It can be really kind of gooky and connected in with a lot of people. Like I said, we really want to connect it in with you as this is your deck. We don't need everybody else's connection in. It can actually start to leak your energy to them in a roundabout way. So taking the time now and clearing and cleansing the deck fully will help you out in the long run. Now, I am going to say there are some people who like to leave their deck out in the moonlight or the sunlight, allowing the natural elements and energies to help clear and cleanse your deck. I don't really recommend that. Not only are you leaving your cards out in an exposed environment so that things like little fingers or paws can connect in with your deck, which again, we're starting to connect into other beings, which children and pets can start to have a connection in with your cards, especially children. I won't lie, they touch this and their energies are so powerful. A lot of times they connect in very easily with your deck. Additionally, you're leaving it out to the elements. The sun in itself can start to fade the card and also warp the actual cardboard as well. You want to take care of these cards. Like I said before, this deck I bought in the early 90s. It has truly stood up to time, the use, and the battery that the cards, they happily take for us. So, like I said, the sunlight and the moonlight, I don't let my cards just bask in that energy. There are other ways that you can intentionally infuse that energy into the deck without exposing it to the sun. Now, there is another way that I have heard people try to clear and cleanse their decks, and that's through using dirt or salt. Again, you're putting your cards at risk for losing that color and starting to mar them with the coarseness of dirt or salt. There are other ways that you can ground and charge your cards with that earthy element rather than using salt or dirt. So I really recommend Reiki, number one, or if you can't or haven't learned Reiki, using that sage or incense to help you clear out your deck. So once your deck is fully cleared of all the built up energies and gunkiness that it holds, don't forget to clear out and cleanse whatever you're storing your deck in. Whether that be something like this where you've got a wrap or cloth that you're wrapping up your cards in, a box, whatever it is you're storing your cards in, make sure that you're clearing it out as well. It is a housing your deck, and it needs to have that love as well. So I did promise in the first video that I would show you this wrap. I created this a long time ago, and it's super helpful as it is a fantastic tool. I can keep my cards safe in it, and then I can also use it as something safe to read my cards on. It can be really challenging to carry all the tools that you may need if you're going to read outside your home. So for this, I can have a reading cloth with me, have my cards. We can start to play with the cards on a clean and clear space. So super easy. It's just, actually this is 2 pieces of cloth sewn together. And you just kind of roll that bad boy up. And you have a safe house for your deck. It's not going to give space like those bags that I had shown you. Okay, I ran and got one. One like a bag like this where you have the deck inside. In this bag you can ear your cards. I've seen it happen. I used to carry my cards in bags like this where you have your deck in there, something like a little magic show. Well, inside there's room for it to move around, so you can start to see how your cards, if one is away from the pack, it can start to ear or be marked, which you don't want. It's not going to support you in reading, as you're going to know what card has that funny ear around the edge. And then you kind of avoid or search out for that card, whether it be subconsciously or consciously. So something that is easy to make and, well, easy to clean as well, because it is fabric. That's another piece you want your housing your cards in to stand up to time and use as well. And I know that most of the Rider Waite come in that flimsy little cardboard box that doesn't hold up so well. So now that you've cleaned your housing and your cards, what do you do now? Well, you need to start to play with the cards. When you originally get the cards, this is obviously a deck I had for a number of years. They're going to come in the suits. So usually on the top you've got the major arcana, and then it goes through the 4 suits. I would encourage you, move these things out of the way, to put them in the suits and just connect in with the cards. Don't have ones. So I'm not going to go through the whole deck, all 78. I've got a bit of a synopsis here, but go through them, put them in order, look at them. The Magician, what does that mean for you? Get used to working with the Roman numerals, because the original Rider Waite doesn't have the number 4. It has the Roman numerals. All right. And for people who want to know this kind of squiggly, funny piece here, see if camera will pick it up here for me. That is Pamela Colman Smith's signature. It should appear on all the cards. Some of them have been kind of cut off. Come on, camera. I don't know if it's going to zoom in, but it's in this corner. And that's her signature. That's how you know that Pamela Colman Smith has drawn it. So go through, connect in, look at all the imagery, because there's a lot of it. There's different flowers down here. He's got a snake belt. He's got a double-ended wand. All the tools. These are symbols that are carved into the table. I know it's hard to see in this deck. In the Radiant Rider Waite, they do clean it up. So like I said, a derivative of this deck is important. So in the Radiant Rider Waite, when you look at his table, you can see that there's a cross, a crown, and could be a stick, an alligator, or a snake. I'm not entirely sure. But notice how there's symbolism, how that connects in. And as you can see the difference, this is the original and this is the Radiant Rider-Waite. Like I said, the pictures are crisper, they're cleaner, and they don't have as many hash marks for coloring. We've got very different technology in printing. So for hash marks, what I mean is in the Empress here, you can see on our pillow, it's not orange. It's kind of yellow with red printed over top of it, which does create a bit of an orange color. However, in the Radiant Rider-Waite, of course we have orange because we have that technology. There's not a lot of difference between the cards in that it is basically the same deck. It's just that they've made it crisper and cleaner. And some of the symbols, they pop better. Like in the back here, we have the symbol for the Venus or for femininity. However, it gets kind of lost in translation here. So again, similar decks. And like I said before, a derivative of the Rider-Waite works just as well as the original. And some of us can connect in better with the Radiant Rider-Waite, more so than the original Rider-Waite. So go through and start to look at the different cards. Put them in numerical order. See how they connect in with their neighbor. Then go through the different suits. It doesn't matter which order you do them in, whether it be the pentacle, the sword, I'm gonna run out of table space here, the cup, or the wand. Go through, connect in, see what they all look like. Go in order. So for here, you would go with 0 starting at the Fool, going all the way to the 21st card of the World, starting in at Ace, and going through to King for each of the minor arcana. Get to know them. Play with them a bit. See what they look like. How do you feel about them? Then, I want you to put them all back in a nice little pile here and start to shuffle them. When you start to shuffle them, you're not only mixing up the order, you're also starting to connect in. You're infusing your energies. Now, whether you do it as a shuffle like that, and there are people who really cringe when I do that. I have shuffled this deck like that for a very long time, and it's held up very well. I find that giving my deck a couple of these nice, very physical shuffles, if you will, they have that thunking. It helps to loosen them up. And it also helps to get rid of any built up energies. You'll find that some tarot readers, especially some of us older tarot readers, will knock our deck 3 times. That's to kind of wake it up, get those energies loosened up a bit, and knock out any energies that we don't need. Now, you don't have to knock your deck. You don't have to shuffle that way. Some people can't. Like I said in my myths, there is no one way to shuffle. You can also just do the side shuffle, whichever way you think works for you. You can messy shuffle, just swishing them around the table, getting them nice and, messy. This one does take a bit of time because you got to get it all sorted out. So it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing, but it is kind of fun. And what you're doing as you're shuffling, as you're playing around with your cards, picking them up, you're putting your energies in them. And as you're sorting your deck, as you're shuffling your deck, you can put intention that you want to connect in with this deck. You want this deck to tell you the truth no matter what, and to continue to show you the truth in a clear and easy way of reading. That way, you're not getting a lot of added fluffiness. You're getting down to the heart of the matter. The more you connect in with your cards, you play with them, you start to look at the pictures. What did the pictures mean? What imagery do you see? So when you pull a card, what imagery stands out? What do you see? The more you're going to connect in with this deck, you're going to get used to the pictorial imagery and story that the deck is sharing. I would encourage people to, over the next couple of weeks, I won't be putting out another video on my Tarot 101 until the beginning of February. I want you guys to have some time to play with your deck, get used to the cards, that imagery, and feel comfortable with manipulating and working with that deck. I'm going to encourage you to do an exercise, well, if you can, every day or as many days as you can, where you take your deck and you can shuffle it until a card comes out, or you can draw a card. And when you draw a card, you take your hand on the side and just naturally allow the card to cut. And that's your card, all right? So take one card each day and then write it down. If you don't have yourself a little book or journal, pick one up. They're super simple, easy to find. The dollar stores have them so that you can write down, what card did you draw? And most importantly, what part of the card spoke to you? What imagery caught your attention right away? And don't overthink it. If it's the pentacle, great. Sometimes it might be, and it's hard to see, but there's a little bunny rabbit there. Get used to the cards. Get used to the imagery. It can be the beautiful cherubs in her throne, the flowers, the fertility in all the greenness in the card, or all the yellowness in the card. There's no right or wrong answer. Write down what comes to you. Now, I'd also write down, have you had this card come up before? Those repetitions and repeatings in cards, that means this card has something to say, something that it wants to share. And you can put in whether it came in upside down or right side up. But most importantly, what are you seeing in this card? What does it say to you? And then shuffle the card back in your deck. It doesn't have to be long. I don't want you to have to look up what the meanings are in these cards, because like I said, these meanings, they have to come in from within you, not from Google, not from that little book that was printed years ago from a source that was incorrect, had many errors in it. So I know it's really hard to do. Stay away from what the formal or quintessential meanings for this card are, because you're going to find it's lengthy. Look at what symbols connect with you. You'll find that different symbols connect in with you on different days. And then think about what that symbol means. What did that rabbit mean for you? What does that coin mean for you? What does it mean when you see a lot of yellow? How does that make you feel? Or when you see a lot of green? That is the personal connection. That's how you're going to connect into that intuitional reading rather than that Google reading. And how I like to tell my clients when they say, well, I looked it up and Google says the card means blah, 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 blah. I encourage them to then get a reading from Google, because apparently that's meaningful for them. So stay away from Google. Like I said, recycle that little book. You don't need it. It's not going to be important, especially as you start out. We're going to end off this video on how you can maintain and care for your cards as you go forward. What I'm asking you to do isn't going to take a lot of time, but you're going to be taking your cards in and out of their storage. So what we're going to do, you're going to take your storage unit, whether that be a box, a cloth, or what have you, and I want you to store it. Now, many of my friends and and different readers along the way, I have found different methods of storing their cards. I know many of my friends who like to add, this is a little bay leaf. They'll put a bay leaf or a sage leaf in their bundle. Some like to put it into some cheesecloth so that they don't have the scratchiness of the dried leaf with the cards, just to add some protection against some evil energies or unwanted energies. And lots of us do have bay leaves at home in the kitchen, and some have sage leaves. Of course you can. You can put a little sachet with your cards. And then, of course, like I said before, you just want to kind of tuck away your cards for the next use. Now, whether or not you knock on your cards as you're shuffling them to, thank them and to clear out any built-up energies that may have come in during your use, personal choice. Other people like to add crystals to their little bundle of cards. I know, and I personally do keep crystals right by my cards just to keep them nice and, well, I want to say healthy, but protected. This is a little piece of Auralite 21, which is a beautiful super crystal. It would help with, well, clearing your cards, charging your cards, and protecting your cards. Nice little easy crystal to have. It is a little bit harder to get. Right now, I believe the only place you can find Auralite 21 is in Canada. It's in a mine in Thunder Bay. Or, if you don't have that, and no, you don't have to have it in an anthem shape. It's just the shape that I have it in. You can use black obsidian. You can have that black crystal next to your cards. That black obsidian will help to protect your cards from unwanted energies. Especially, like I said, if you have pets or children in the house, they have a funny way of finding your cards and going, wow, what's this? Or if it's an animal, start to move your cards around. Having those crystals near or around your decks will help to protect them. I also have friends that like to keep little pots of sage or bay leaves, or a combination of the two, around their cards as well. It has a beautiful scent and it does help with that protection. It's up to you though on what protection you need for your cards and how you want to store them. These are personal choices. They need to resonate with you. There needs to be meaning behind it. So over the next 3 weeks, I'd like you to play with your cards, get to know them, and have some fun with the deck. This shouldn't be work. This should be exciting and fun. It doesn't need to take a lot of time. It just needs to be a skill that we start to build on. And please, please stay away from trying to find and research what everybody else feels the definition of that card is. We will get into these definitions through the symbols that are in the card. That way you're not trying to memorize cards. As I debunked in the myth video, we don't want to memorize cards. There's 78 of them, and they have different meanings if they're upside down or right side up. What we want to remember is the symbols. Remember the symbols. That way we know what these cards mean, no matter which way they land. I want to thank you guys for spending some time with me today and watching this video. I can't wait to continue our journey into the tarot experience that's to come throughout the upcoming months. I want to take the time and enjoy this experience with you. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. It does help people find me on the sea of YouTube, and it helps to raise the vibration of us collectively as we all start to tap in to some of these natural pieces and elements that are right there just for us. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. There's so much more coming your way, not only in the Tarot 101, but in other elements and realms as well. And of course, the best way to stay connected in and up to date on what videos I post is to hit that little red bell so you don't miss a video. And if you enjoyed this video and want to support me in making more, I do have a Patreon page. It's full of tiers and perks, and not surprisingly, those perks, you're looking at free readings and healings from me. Additionally, I do have a Patreon exclusive library of videos just for my supporters. I provided a helpful link below, so why not go check it out? Until tomorrow, my friends.